Listen carefully, chosen ones. There are people who walk through life convinced that they are the masters of deception, the architects of manipulation, the ones pulling the strings while everyone else dances to their tune. They believed they could control you. They believed they could trick you, fool you, keep you blinded to their schemes. They believed they were always one step ahead. But what they failed to realize, you saw everything from the very beginning. And now, their entire illusion is crumbling. The moment has arrived where they finally understand, they were never leading the game. They were only walking straight into the trap they set for you. Before we go deeper, if you have ever seen through deception, exposed the lies, and watched people lose control the moment they realized you knew all along, then do this, like this video, subscribe, and comment below, I saw through it all. Because the truth always rises. And now, it's time to break this down step by step. The greatest trick manipulators play is convincing themselves that they are in control. They walk with fake confidence, speaking as if they have all the answers, moving as if their every action is part of some grand, untouchable scheme. They weave lies, build illusions, and play mind games, thinking they are always 2 steps ahead. But here's the truth they never accounted for: you were never blind. You were always watching. While they believed they were orchestrating events, you were reading their every move. While they thought they had you trapped, you had already predicted their next step. While they assumed you were clueless, you were simply letting them dig their own grave. Because chosen ones don't just react. We observe. We analyze. We understand far more than we ever reveal. And that is where they lost. They thought they had the upper hand, but in reality, they were only following a script you had already read. Now, as the truth begins to sink in, their fake confidence is shattered. They realize, too late, that everything they did was predictable, obvious, and foolish. And that haunts them. They strutted around, pretending they were the masterminds. They believed they were the players, while everyone else was just a piece on their chessboard. They thought they had you cornered, trapped, playing along with their game. But the truth? You were never just another piece on their board. You were the entire board itself. While they were busy playing checkers, convinced they were being strategic, you had already mastered a game they didn't even know they were in. That is what terrifies them the most. The realization that their every move was predictable. That their lies were never hidden. That the control they thought they had over you never existed. They spent so much energy trying to outmaneuver you, only to find out they were never in control to begin with. And now they feel it. The weight of their own foolishness. The cold reality that their games were never as clever as they thought. The undeniable truth that you saw through everything from the very start. And that is where their paranoia begins to take root. Because if you knew all along, if you saw through every trick, every deception, every mind game, then what else do you know? What else have you been keeping silent about? How much power do you truly hold? And suddenly, the ones who thought they were controlling the game now feel like the ones being watched. There's a moment, a split second, where everything clicks in their mind. And that moment is the beginning of their downfall. It happens when they see your expression shift, when they realize your silence wasn't confusion, but understanding. It happens when they replay every past interaction and suddenly recognize the pattern. They weren't fooling you, you were simply waiting for them to reveal themselves. It happens when they look into your eyes and feel something they've never felt before, power that does not come from deception, but from absolute truth. And now Now, they don't just fear exposure, they fear you. Because once the illusion is broken, they cannot put it back together. Once they see that you were always steps ahead, they cannot unsee it. And that destroys them. You didn't have to expose them. You didn't have to retaliate. You didn't have to do anything but stand firm in what you already knew. And that alone was enough. Because manipulators do not fear revenge, they fear irrelevance. They fear realizing that all their tricks, all their games, all their manipulations meant nothing. They thought they were playing a game of control. They thought they were making strategic moves. They thought they were untouchable. But now they sit in the wreckage of their own arrogance. Now they are the ones scrambling to figure out what went wrong. Now they are the ones feeling exposed, vulnerable, weak. Because the truth was never on their side. It was always on yours. They thought they had you fooled. But the only ones who were fooled were themselves. Because you saw through it all. From the very beginning. And now, as they stand in the ruins of their illusion, wondering how much you knew, how long you've known, let them sit with it. Let them wrestle with their own foolishness. Let them question everything. Because in the end, they were never playing you. They were only playing themselves. Comment below, I saw through it all, because the truth always wins. And now? They know it, too. They moved in the shadows, whispering behind closed doors, plotting behind fake smiles. They thought their secrets were well kept, that their deception was perfectly hidden. They believed they could mask their true intentions with charm, false kindness, and carefully crafted lies. But what they didn't realize was they were never truly hidden. Every fake compliment, every forced smile, every carefully chosen word, it all left traces, because the truth is, no one can fully hide who they are. No matter how skilled a manipulator thinks they are, their energy always gives them away. You felt it. You sensed it long before they even made their first move. You saw it in their eyes, the flicker of insecurity masked by arrogance. You heard it in their words, the forced enthusiasm, the rehearsed flattery, the subtle undertones of deception. You caught it in their actions, the contradictions, the inconsistencies, the patterns of behavior that exposed their true nature. And so, you watched, not in fear, not in anger, but in calculated silence. Because chosen ones do not react blindly. We observe, we take mental notes, we let them believe they are in control, all while quietly watching them dig their own grave. They thought they were the ones studying you, but in reality, they were the ones being studied. And when the day finally came where they realized you had seen through them from the start, that's when the panic set in. Because now, they weren't just manipulators operating in the dark, they were exposed, and that is their worst nightmare. One of the biggest mistakes manipulators make is assuming that everyone is as easily controlled as they are. They believe that if they can just find the right weakness, they can break you. If they can just push the right buttons, they can make you react, submit, fall apart. If they can just uncover your vulnerabilities, they can keep you under their control. But what they didn't realize is, you are not like everyone else. Most people wear their emotions on their sleeve, leaving clues about their weaknesses, their fears, their insecurities. But chosen ones operate differently. You do not reveal yourself to just anyone. You do not give them the ammunition they are looking for. Instead, you remain unshaken, unreadable, untouchable. And that drove them insane. Because the harder they searched for your weakness, the more they exposed their own. Every move they made to control you only revealed their own desperation. Their lies became more frequent, their strategies became more obvious, their attempts to manipulate became more predictable. They were so focused on breaking you that they didn't realize they were showing you exactly how to break them. You saw their need for validation. You saw their fear of being exposed. You saw their craving for control. And that knowledge made them weaker than they ever realized, because the truth is, manipulators do not hold power. They only borrow it from those who give them access. And when you refuse to engage, refuse to react, refuse to play into their hands, you took all that power away. And suddenly, they weren't in control anymore. They were the ones unraveling. When someone spends their entire life manipulating others, they convince themselves that they are invincible. They think they can weave any story, tell any lie, move in any direction, without ever being caught. But when they finally realize that you had been watching them all along, that you had known from the very start, that everything they did only made them more transparent, they began to feel trapped. Not because you did anything to them, not because you sought revenge, not because you exposed them to the world, but because they had exposed themselves. They looked back at their own words, their own actions, their own failed manipulations, and suddenly, it all felt so obvious. They started questioning themselves. Did they always know? Was I ever really in control? How much did they see? Did I ever fool them at all? And that is where they truly lost. Because once a manipulator begins doubting themselves, once they start feeling like the one being watched, once they realize they have lost the upper hand, they begin to self-destruct. They try to overcorrect. They become paranoid. They start making even more mistakes, revealing even more of their true nature. And all the while, you remain calm, steady, unshaken, because the truth is, they were never the ones in control. They were only ever fooling themselves. And now, they know it too. Manipulators are skilled with words. They know how to twist a story, craft a narrative, and make themselves look innocent, even when they are the villain. They convince themselves that if they say something enough times, if they repeat a lie with enough confidence, it will somehow become the truth. They weave a web of deception, thinking they are covering their tracks, but they forget something critical. Actions always expose the truth, no matter how well they speak, how smooth their words are, how convincing their performance is. Their behavior tells the real story, because words can be rehearsed. But actions always reveal the truth. You saw it, the moments where their words didn't match their behavior, the contradictions that slipped through in casual conversations, the nervous energy that appeared whenever they were questioned too closely. They thought they were fooling you, but every step they took only made them more obvious. And now, they are trapped in their own lies. They look around, realizing that the stories they created are unraveling. The carefully constructed facade is crumbling, because once a person has been exposed as a liar, every word they say becomes suspect. And now they are the ones questioning everything. How much do they know? When did they figure it out? What will happen when the truth fully comes out? And suddenly, the confidence they once carried is gone, because deep down, they know, their lies were never strong enough to hold power, and the only thing left for them now is fear. They were waiting for you to react. They were expecting you to lash out, to argue, to fight, to prove yourself. They wanted you to plead your case, to explain yourself, to try and convince them that they were wrong about you, because if you did that, it would mean they still had control. But instead, you stayed silent. You didn't argue. You didn't explain. You didn't give them the energy they so desperately needed. And that destroyed them, because manipulators don't just thrive on deception, they thrive on reaction. They need you to engage. They need you to respond. They need to know that they still have some level of influence over your emotions. But when you gave them nothing, when you refused to play their game, when you simply walked away without a word, they felt true powerlessness. Because the truth is, the only thing holding their illusion together was your willingness to participate, and the moment you stopped playing, the entire illusion fell apart. Now, they sit in silence, haunted by the same tactics they once used against others. They replay past conversations, trying to find where they lost control. They start questioning if they ever had control to begin with. They become consumed with paranoia, wondering how much you know, how much you saw, and whether or not you will expose them. And this is where they begin to self-destruct. Because when a manipulator can no longer manipulate, they lose all sense of who they are. They thought they were playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers. They believed their mind games made them superior, that their ability to manipulate meant they were always in control. But now they see the truth. It was never power. It was only fear. They weren't strategizing. They were grasping at control. They weren't making calculated moves. They were acting out of desperation. Every manipulative tactic, every forced scenario, every fake display of dominance, it was never about intelligence. It was always about insecurity. They needed to feel like they were above others because deep down, they felt small. They needed to create chaos in other people's lives because deep down, they were afraid of their own emptiness. And when they finally saw that you were never playing their game, that you were never fooled by their tricks, that you always knew who you were, while they were the ones living in deception, it crushed them, because now, they can't escape the truth that they were never as powerful as they thought. The truth that their manipulation was always just a cover for their own weakness. The truth that chosen ones never needed to play their game to win. Now, as they sit in the ruins of their illusion, they realize they were never the masters of control. They were only prisoners of their own ego. Manipulators do not survive without attention. They don't just want power. They don't just want control. They need to be seen. Because their entire existence is built on the reactions they get from others. If no one is watching, if no one is reacting, if no one is engaging, they start to wither. That's why they did everything they could to keep you locked in their cycle. They tried to provoke you. They created chaos. They stirred up drama. They spread rumors, planted doubts, whispered lies, all in an attempt to keep your focus on them. Because as long as you were watching them, as long as you were responding, as long as you were giving them your energy, they felt important. But when you stopped engaging, when you turned away, when you refused to give them the reaction they were so desperate for, that was their undoing. Because nothing terrifies a manipulator more than becoming invisible. And now, they feel it, the emptiness, the insignificance, the realization that without your energy to feed on, they are nothing. They walked with an air of arrogance. They carried themselves like they were always a step ahead. They convinced themselves that they were the ones controlling you, that they were leading the game. But they didn't realize, you saw through everything from the start, every plan, every manipulation tactic, every desperate attempt to create a narrative that would keep you hooked. You knew, and still, you let them think they were in control. Not because you were weak, not because you were blind, but because you wanted to see how far they would go. You wanted them to expose themselves, to show their true nature, to reveal the depths of their deceit, and they did, over and over again, because they were so blinded by their own arrogance, so convinced of their own superiority, that they didn't even stop to question why everything felt so easy, why you never truly reacted, why you never seemed affected, why their tactics never quite had the impact they were expecting. And now, they realize, they weren't the ones reading you, you were the one studying them, and that realization, that destroys them, because it forces them to confront a truth they cannot escape. They were never ahead of you, they were always behind. They expected retaliation. They thought you would try to expose them, to fight back, to prove to the world who they really were. But instead, you did nothing. You didn't need to, because chosen ones do not seek revenge. We do not need to destroy our enemies. They destroy themselves. That is the most devastating part of it all. Not that you fought them, not that you exposed them, not that you made them pay for what they did, but that you saw everything from the beginning and still chose to stand back, letting them dig their own grave. They thought they were controlling you, but the only thing they ever controlled was their own downfall. And now, they sit in silence. Alone, humiliated, powerless, and the worst part, the absolute worst part, It was never you they were fighting, they were always fighting themselves.